Welcome back to the Bama Tailgate Show, Alabama and Georgia. We're previewing it right now, and we appreciate all of you guys for hanging out. Thank you to everyone here at Old River Grill, where the Floor Bama allows you to roll your boat right up to the shores and come in and hang out from the Old River side of the beach. And then obviously one of the great places in the South and the best world famous beach bar, the Floor Bama, right across the street. But we appreciate all those guys. Time to talk to Chris Lowe. I'm Mick Gillespie. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Bama Tailgate Show. This segment is brought to you by Sevierville. Visit Sevierville. You got to get to those Smoky Mountains. Now's the time of year to do that. Smoky Mountain Harvest Festival is underway. It goes from September 19th to the end of the month, October 31st. You're talking about creative fall displays throughout Sevierville and fall-themed events, as well as brilliant fall colors in the trees. Peak leaf viewing is typically mid-October through mid-November. Learn more at visitsevierville.com/fall. And a guy that spends his time in that area is our friend Chris Lowe from On3, covers the SEC and college football. I think he's the best in the business. It's always great to see you, Chris. We got a huge matchup this week. Alabama in Athens to play Georgia, but it's not where College Game Day is. Are they telling us something?
Who knows, man? I quit guessing a long time ago where they were going to go and why, and there's all sorts of factors. But I digress. We won't get into all that. But it's this is still, to me, Bama Georgia is the game that is easily the most impactful in the SEC. I think when you look at Bama having one loss, you could say it's maybe the most impactful in college football, because it's hard for me to see Alabama losing this game, Mick, and leaving September with 2 losses and clawing its way back into the playoff.
Well, that's the problem for Alabama. 33 straight wins in Athens for Georgia. Bama's won the last few times it's been there. They've been there, but you're talking about Nick Saban teams, 2008, obviously the famous blackout game. That was Julio Jones, John Parker Wilson, and then 2015, that was Derrick Henry and our friend Jake Coker getting it done in a game where the rains came down heavily. And then these teams have played high stakes SEC national championship games multiple times. Last year in Tuscaloosa, Bama blew them out in the first half. Georgia won the second half. And then obviously Ryan Williams with the big play. This one's circled on the calendar for the Dawgs. But if Alabama loses, their backs are up against the wall as far as having chips if they lose another game after that.
Good news is this. This is going to be the healthiest, best version of Alabama we've seen all year, Mick. With Jam Miller back, Tim Keenan's going to be back. I think if you had told Kalen before the season who are the 4 or 5 players you could least still afford to lose, those 2 would have been in that group. I'm not making excuses. There's no excuse the way Alabama played in that first game, but they are a lot better football team with these 2 guys. Miller gives them some explosiveness in the backfield, running the football, and certainly Keenan is just he's just their enforcer there in the middle of that defensive line, and a good pass rusher. He's a good interior pass rusher, which they're going to need to get some push on Stockton in this game. So I think that's the best news for Bama. This is the best version. Should be the best version of Bama we've seen. They're rested. They haven't had to play in 2 weeks. Same goes for Georgia. I get that. So there's no reason that we should not see Alabama play its best football in this game. And I think we will. I think this is a team that was legitimately embarrassed. I think they were angry the way they played that first week. They know they're a better football team. I can tell you, and we've the 2 of us have talked off air, when I went and watched them practice the week before game week, I felt like they had a chance to be as good as any team in the country. And just because they lost, I'm not just completely backing away from that. Sometimes those type games happen early. We've seen that happen. But here's the test now. Here's the chance to say, all right, what happened in Tallahassee was a little bit of a mirage. This is who we are. Yeah, this is a hard place to play. No one's won here in 33 straight games. But we are a legitimate a legitimate championship contender, and they need to play that way. I think it's got intrigue written all over this game, because you're right. Kirby, when does Kirby ever lose 2 straight times to the same team? He doesn't do it. He's been really good after bye weeks in the regular season. This is a Georgia team that's been tested on the road. They were able to sneak out of Neyland Stadium with a win. Not Georgia that we remember from 21 and 22 on defense, but they're still good on defense. But I think you saw in that game, and I was at that game, if you can protect your quarterback and you've got guys down the field who can separate and make plays, which Bama does, I think you can take advantage of this Georgia secondary.
Bama playing Georgia for the 75th time in school history, right? 44, 26, and 4. Bama 15 and 10 in Athens. And this was one before they split the conferences. That used to be a really big game, Alabama and Georgia. And what I mean by that is when they went to east to west, Georgia went to the east and Bama went to the west. They're changing the formatting of the scheduling again starting next year. But I like the fact that we're going to see this game more often. They're saying, hey, you're not going to go your 4 years, which is something Saban always wanted, was you play everybody in your career. So we'll see Georgia again next year, and then, obviously maybe miss a year and then play them again. This one has so much intrigue, I guess, just because you got Kirby Smart, who doesn't, like you said, doesn't lose twice to the same team and has had just an amazing career at Georgia. He's been the number one disciple for Coach Saban. I mean, and Kirby Smart is 108-19 in his career after leaving Alabama as a head coach, which is pretty impressive. But he just hasn't mastered Alabama. So, he's got this one circled. I guess to me, the thing, Chris, is Bama's just been so bad on the road under Coach DeBoer in the last 3 times out, just terrible. Like terrible against Florida State, awful against Michigan, which was a bowl game. The Oklahoma game was embarrassingly bad. So why should I expect Alabama to do anything other than what I've seen the last 3 times out?
No, that's fair. And they were pretty good against LSU. Milroe was,
they were awesome against them.
Was dynamic, and they played really good football in that game. But more times than not, you're right. I mean, they lose at Vandy. They lost at Tennessee. Those were close games, and they didn't just get blown out in those games. So I think that's something that most Bama fans, and I think college football people around the country are waiting to see what you just asked answer. Can they rise up and play a football at the place that's probably, probably to it. There's been no place over the last, 5-6 years harder to play than Georgia, especially at night. I think the night thing makes it even more difficult. And I've been there for a lot of night games, man. And that place is crazy. Kirby's teams play to that crowd. So Bama's going to have to play the best they played. I'll say this, Mick. They're going to have to play the best they played under Kalen since the first half of the Georgia game last year to win this game. And I'm not saying they can't do it. I think they can. I had a chance to sit down or talk Zoom with Ty Simpson last week, and he's the kind of, I think he's got the kind of mettle you want at that position going on the road. He is a tough kid. He's a focused kid. I like the fact that the guys around him on that team have really rallied around him.
Yeah.
They believe in him. He's come back. He didn't play great in the first game, but Ty's not the reason they lost to Florida State. He's played outstanding football since then. I think they've done some things with him. He's done, he told me, he said, I had to self-scout. What was I not doing? What was I doing that I needed to be more of? I think he was trying too hard to be just perfect and not just play. I think you'll see him certainly do his best to play more instinctively, but the guys around him, Mick, have to play well. They got to protect him, number one, because Kirby and Glenn Schumann, they're going to come after him with some different looks, some different blitzes, try to get him off his game, try to get him out of the pocket. So how do they protect him? And down there's a reason you bring in a Bernard. There's a reason you go recruit and sign a kid like Ryan Williams, right? Those guys have to make plays down the field. They've got to, because to think you're going to go on the road and run for 200 yards and beat Georgia, it's just probably not realistic. So you got to make some plays, soften them up. And again, I think if Bama protects and doesn't turn the ball over, this to me will be a second half game. I've seen Georgia, and I know Georgia fans are going to see this and say, well, man, he's dissing Georgia. No, that's not true. It's just they were so good and so They lost 31 guys to the draft in the last 3 drafts. And I think 16 of those were first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Not even Georgia can withstand that type of attrition. And I think I counted the other day, I think there's 8 or 9 players that played at Georgia that are now starting at other schools or playing really significant minutes at other schools. It's just harder for the Georgias and the Alabamas and the Ohio States to stockpile talent and keep a lot of depth. Kids that don't play, that can go play elsewhere, do go. And so this is just not – when I think of that Georgia team in 21, heck, even in 23, the one that Bama beat in the SEC championship game. Remember, Georgia had won 29 straight games at that point. And Bama plays a great game and beats them in the SEC title game. Georgia stays home, and wins by 60 points in their bowl game over Florida State. I just, again, having watched this team and watched Kirby continue to churn out draft picks and develop kids, I think they do that now, certainly now that Nick's gone, as well as anybody in the country. I still don't think this is as deep or as talented a team as we've seen Georgia have in that 21, 22, 23 stretch.
Guys, if you haven't yet, make sure that you join us at Mick Nation, part of Avenue D. Hit that QR code. We're going to be giving away hats and shirts. Maybe you want one of these Hawaiian shirts. Chris, do you wear Hawaiian shirts? You a Hawaiian shirt guy?
Send me one, man. I'll wear it. I'll wear it to the next couple games I attend. How about that?
If you promise me to do that, I'll get it in the mail.
I'll take a picture.
I would absolutely love to see everyone's reaction if you roll in with a Bama Tailgate Hawaiian shirt on. I just don't know that I would love it. I don't know if everybody else would as much. Hanging with Chris Lowe from On3, college football expert, our buddy. Chris, outside of this Alabama and Georgia game, and I agree, Ty Simpson has been a guy that has shown mettle. I mean, really, I really enjoyed him and what he's been able to do. Looking around the league, last game, Georgia and Tennessee had a battle. Tennessee's going to play at Mississippi State, who's surprisingly not that bad. Vanderbilt, Bama's next opponent. Watch out, man. They're really good right now. I mean, they're playing some amazing football. Auburn I don't know if they should have won the game against Oklahoma, but some bad calls in that game. When you look at the conference right now, how do you have it stacked up? Like as of right this second, where's Bama in relation to, I guess Georgia would be at the top. Texas looks very beatable. I don't even know elite level who I'd put at the top of this thing.
You know who I think's elite? I think the balance in the conference is elite, the parity. I mean that. I know that sounds a bit like a cop-out, but, man, take a bunch of chips, throw them in the bucket, shake them around, and label each chip with one of the teams and pull one out at this point. I don't know enough about the teams in the league yet. Everybody – Georgia's got a great win on the road at Tennessee. A lot of teams would have struggled to win that game in that environment, and they did. And I think that's sort of been Kirby's MO at Georgia. They find ways to win. But they still showed warts. They give up 41 points. I mean, teams are going to be able, I think, to throw the football against Georgia. Texas, as you said, looks beatable. Vandy, they've been dominant in the second half. Now, how good is Virginia Tech? How good is South Carolina? I don't know. I think we find out a little bit more later on this week when LSU and Ole Miss play. That to me is a telltale type of matchup. The game being there in Oxford, you think if Ole Miss is legit, that's the one they got to win, I think, to hold serve there. And the winner of this game, there's still going to be some tough games, but the winner of LSU Ole Miss, Mick, I think sets themselves up fairly nicely to be in a playoff, one way or the other, to be a playoff team. The game that you mentioned, a couple of the teams, and you mentioned State and Tennessee. This will be Tennessee's first real road game. So the first time that Joey Aguilar, who's been fantastic, and that pass game have to go on the road. Now Tennessee wants to play fast and play tempo. Mississippi State is a very underrated place to play. If they stay in that game and Tennessee doesn't jump on them early and that becomes a second half game, look out, because I have a lot of respect. I spent some time with Jeff Levy. He's been able to sort of dig that program out of the ground from the ashes, and they believe there's a lot of momentum. There's some veterans on that team who've come in from other places. You know, the receiver like Brennan Thompson, Shapen at quarterbacks, played a lot of football. So I think this is a game that it's gone from about 10 points to 7 or 7.5 the line has. That has a chance to be interesting because the road in the SEC, man, any place to be. You know, if you go in and you're a little apprehensive, the home team gets up, those cowboy bells start clanging. So I want to see how Tennessee's pass game fares on the road in a tough place to play, because in the past, you know, you talk about Bama not playing well on the road. That's sort of been the hurdle that Josh Heupel has not been able to get over Tennessee, is they have not played good football on the road. You know, so here's a chance to get out from under that. The last one, even though it's not an SEC game, I think Arkansas, Notre Dame has intrigue written all over it because they're all over Sam Pittman in Arkansas right now. They've lost 2 games. Going in to score potentially the winning touchdown, they fumbled the football. Last week against Memphis, 2 weeks ago against Ole Miss, both those games on the road. I don't think Arkansas is nearly as bad as a lot of people there in that state are making them out to be. Yeah, they're not great on defense. They've given up a lot of big plays, but they can score with anybody. I think this is a game, if they're going to save their season and get this thing pointed back in the right direction, they got to win at home against the Irish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Lane Kiffin, our former offensive coordinator, and taking on LSU. That's a big game too. I mean, and I'm curious to see how this one's going to turn out. I mean, I feel like Ole Miss took a step back a little bit because of the draft and players they lost, but they looked really good against Tulane. And then LSU's been battle tested, but you know that they've got some issues moving the ball at times. I think their defense is a lot better. The winner of this game, to me, is in a spot where they're going to be in position to make the college football playoff.
Yeah, I think they will. I think the winner of this game is sort of one of the leaders in the clubhouse to make the playoff. And which, again, playing at home makes it so much more important to me, you know, for Ole Miss, you know, to hold serve. One of the more fascinating stories in the league this year has been Trinidad Chambliss. You know, the kid from Ferris State who's come into Ole Miss. There was all this talk about Austin Simmons, who's, you know, supremely talented, but he's had that ankle and he just hasn't been healthy. And all Chambliss has come in and done is play like a champ. And he's going to start again. There's no way you can pull that kid out of the lineup right now. Now, if he starts to struggle and Simmons is indeed healthy, then maybe you see him give him a shot. But I think you have a mutiny in that locker room, Mick, if you try to pull Chambliss out of the lineup with the way he's played against an LSU team that it's almost like the narrative's flipped. I mean, they couldn't stop anybody on defense.
Yeah.
You know, and now they've got a lot of dudes on that side of the ball. They went out and addressed needs in the portal. They got guys that could rush the passer. They really bolstered their back end on defense, but they just haven't been very dynamic offensively. I think part of it is that LSU hasn't wanted to talk much about it. Is even before the season, Garrett Nussmeier had some issues with his ab, a strain or something, and I think it was painful. It was harder for him to throw the football. He should be by now much more healthy, but I think that's been part of the deal early on for them. Is it's plagued him.
That could be it. I mean, who knows, right? But they found a way to win, and I think that's the most important part. The SEC came out and changed the scheduling. Right? They're going to add a 9th game. I'm fine with that. Give me a 9th game. They're going to make it to where you play. You won't go 2 years without playing a team, right? Yeah. Which is good. And for Alabama, I thought this was important. Maybe not as important as it was this last time. But I thought playing Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU put Alabama in a disadvantage just because every other team that I looked at that was on that elite level had that game that you knew they were going to win. They just had and for Alabama, you have 3 rivals there. So they switched LSU for Mississippi State. And Mike Johnson and I were doing our show on Monday, and I was saying that, and then he's like, "You're not going to believe this," but it actually just came out that Bama's adding Mississippi State and taking LSU off as far as the rivals go. What did you notice? And you were the guy, actually, Chris, you were the guy that broke it. We were like, hey, there's Chris Lowe broke this story. So here you are. Well, what do you think about the way that the schedule's changing, and then Alabama and some of the other schools? How do you feel about the parity? And what I mean by that is, you got two, rivals, elite teams, and then one kind of step down. And Mississippi State, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but we played them 100 times and we've beaten them 80 something, so.
I would, a couple points, Mick. Number one, I think the fairest way to assess the schedules now, the new ones starting in 26, and we're all guilty of this. I know I was at looking at the annual opponents, but I think you got to really look at the schedule in totality, who everybody plays. I mean, if you look at it, all 9 teams, it looks a little bit different than if you just look at the 3 annuals. And I think the other thing to consider here is the 3 annuals will be reevaluated every 4 years. So 4 years from now, if let's say let's just use Florida as an example. Florida continues to go in the tank. They just don't win any football games. And let's say vice versa. Vandy becomes a juggernaut. They win 9 games this year, 9 games next year. Then they're going to reevaluate some of the annual opponents, and that they may shuffle some of those around. So that's one thing. As a football fan, as just someone who loves the sport and understands how impactful Alabama LSU has been over the last 2 decades, think of all the games those 2 teams have played that have either impacted the national championship race, impacted the SEC race, or just been memorable classics.
Yeah.
I was sorry to see that go away annually. Now, maybe Alabama's not, because they've got Auburn and Tennessee. I get you want to balance those annual foes. See, I think Tennessee probably got off as easy as anybody. And now, as soon as I say that, watch Clark Lee continue to build Vanderbilt into a juggernaut. I don't see people jumping up and down right now wanting to play Vandy.
No, but that it's not going to last. It's not. I mean, he'll go somewhere else. But
that could happen.
I respect what's going on there, but it's a difference between. It was like when they were loading up the schedule where everybody had off days before they played Alabama, and you're playing every week. You're playing a team, and they've got an off week, and you're going in from one game to the next, and that's what makes it tough. It's hard to find that balance that the NFL has. But I agree with you too. I'm not going to disagree. Alabama LSU has been some of the best football that's been in college football over the last 20 years.
Yeah, you go right down the line, man. I can sit here within 30 seconds and rip off 4 or 5 games that were classics. And I think the fans win. People who win, the fans win because we're going to see more good games. We'll see more teams. There's no reason, you touched on it, there's no reason that Georgia and Bama shouldn't play more in the regular season. We're going to get to see that now. I miss Florida and Auburn used to play way back all the time. They haven't played as often. They're going to start playing more. Auburn and Tennessee was a great rivalry there for a while. They quit playing every year. We're going to get to see that rivalry more. Georgia has yet to play in College Station. Texas A&M joined the league in 2012. Georgia has not played a football game there. So I think this model, Mick, and you're never going to satisfy everybody. Someone's going to be mad when it comes to the schedule. But at least this model, to me, is more representative of a conference. You're playing teams in your conference more often.
Yeah.
I look at Auburn's annuals, their annual opponents. I mean, they got to play Georgia and Alabama every year. And to your point a minute, those 2 teams aren't going anywhere.
No. Who's their third team?
You know what? I don't even have that in front of me. I should know that.
Just keep going. I'll look it up right here.
But I mean, even I don't care if they play, a high school, they have to play those 2 teams every year. And again, that could change in 4 years when they reassess the schedule. That's difficult to know you're going to have to get up and play those 2 programs, the 2 quote unquote blue bloods, certainly 2 of the blue bloods in the SEC. So you're not going to satisfy everybody.
Right.
You're just not. And but I do like that we're going to see teams play more often. Will it hurt the league come playoff time? I think that's the key question. And we get a test case this year, right? In 26 will be the first year. Are we going to see? And I think this is all presidents, all ADs, all coaches have wondered this, some of them aloud. Are we going to see the first 3-loss team get into the playoff? Are we going to see a team in the SEC? Let's say someone plays. Well, let's take Oklahoma this year, for instance. They played Michigan and beat Michigan, so they have a marquee non-conference win. But yet they lose 3 in the conference, but also have a couple big wins in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Would they get in? I think that's the question that no one knows yet. And was the reason the coaches really didn't want to go to 9 games? Is it going to hurt them? I would hope that in the spirit of what the playoff is supposed to be, that if you're willing to go out and play a tough non-conference game, which everybody in the SEC is required to do, and then you're going to go to a 9th game in your league, there's going to be a lot of SEC teams with 3 losses.
Right.
They're going to be better or certainly as good as teams in other leagues with 1 loss.
Hey, look, I agree with that. And I think just as a fan base, you just want better matchups. You also want the committees to, to basically take into consideration that you're playing tough games, right? And that didn't happen last year. And I hope that it happens this year. But I've told you this, Chris, I'm standing by it. I think they ought to just expand the playoff and make it like how they do Alabama high school, like everybody that's decent makes it. It always comes down to the best teams anyway, but they just, so there's no argument, right? Like if you didn't make the playoff, then you weren't one of the top 4 teams of 8, right? So in each, basically in each division. So I'm fine with adding more teams. I would rather have at this point, you're 12, you do 16, whatever. I'd throw them all in there and let's just have some more playoff football.
Yeah, well, this is what I like the most about more teams being in there is you engage more fan bases in late October and early November, and really more teams, right? If you're going to have 16 or even more spots, then how many? Let's just use 16 as a hypothetical. Once you flip the calendar from October to November, there's still 25 teams, maybe more, that have a legitimate chance to play their way into that 16. I think that's the best thing about it is if you're going to expand it, and I see both. I mean, I see your side. I've had people say, well, it's going to kill the regular season. I think it's good for the sport. It's good for fan bases. It's good for everybody that loves college football to be more engaged and to say, all right, my team still has a chance. We're going to go play, your South Carolina. We're going to play Oklahoma here the last weekend of October. We've got 3 losses or 2 losses, but we still got a chance to make the playoff if we can win this football game. I think that's good overall for the sport.
I agree. Well, Chris, always great to talk to you. Where are you going to be this week?
I'll be at Bama, Georgia, and I'm looking forward to it, man. That's nice. That's one of those games that, again, we've seen them a bunch in the postseason, Mick, in the SEC title game, the national championship game a couple times. We haven't seen them much in the regular season. This is the first time. Here's the crazy thing. Kirby Smart has not been in a regular season Alabama-Georgia game since he was last at Alabama.
I know.
Defensive coordinator. I think that was the blackout game, right?
No. He 2015. It was his defense that went in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was on the Alabama staff.
Yeah.
In 2015.
Yeah, the blackout was 2008 though, but that was the rain game with Derrick Henry just trucked over those guys.
You're right. I'm getting on like my memory, but he was definitely there on the Bama staff. So the last time, as I said, he's been involved in a Bama-Georgia regular season game other than last year. Obviously, he came into Tuscaloosa, but one in Athens was when he was still the Alabama defensive coordinator. I guess that was 15, right?
Yeah.
So it's
2015.
Yeah, I mean this is why, hey, these are classic type games. A lot of teams, both teams have a lot of motivation. I think for Bama, Kirby probably won't like hearing this. I think this is as crazy as it sounds, this is a bigger game for Alabama than it is Georgia. Georgia could lose this game, and there's still a pretty decent pathway for them to play their way into the playoff. For Bama to lose this game, it's going to be really difficult to get into the playoff. I'm not saying they won't be able to, but they would probably have to sort of run the table, and they still got some tough games coming up.
Yeah.
By the way, Vandy is Auburn's third opponent. So
yeah.
I know people say, well, it's Vandy, but remember they looked from 20 to 24. They went back and looked at everybody's conference record. That's sort of what they used as a gauge to sort of rank the teams. Vandy had some tough. Even when Clark got there, they had some tough seasons, but they've been pretty salty the last 2 years.
Look, I hate to say this, Chris, but when Diego Pavia leaves college after his 20-year career, it's going to be, it ain't going to be the same Vanderbilt team. That guy with the offensive coordinator that came over, they're good. They're really good. They're not great. They're really good, and they're tough to beat. I'm curious to see what it looks like next year, but I think it's fair. Look, you got, whether you got Arkansas or you got Mississippi State or you got Vanderbilt, you got one of those teams that is definitely like a little bit lower on the scale. I think that's fair because playing Alabama, playing LSU, Auburn, and Tennessee every year to me wasn't the same as you look at Tennessee's playing Vanderbilt and Kentucky. Come on. I mean, it's just,
and I think that's why, and I think that's that school of thought is what ultimately won out. That, we're not going to load. We heard Nick say that a few years ago when it was thrown out that they may play Auburn, LSU, and Tennessee as their annual foes. He's like, wait a minute, hey, how fair is that? So I think that your school of thought ultimately won out. And I would caution all fans, look at the entire schedule.
Yeah.
From year to year and who you play versus everybody else. And I think when you're playing everybody twice in a 4-year span, one team once every 2 years, it's probably about as balanced as it's going to get.
Yeah, it doesn't matter as much as it did this time. Chris, what are you working on? Where can people find you? Anything you want to promote?
Yeah, On3, just on3.com. This is my month anniversary, Mick. So
happy anniversary.
It's been a great run. I really love the fact that you'd be able to go out and tell stories and had a chance to do some stuff on Ty Simpson, Kirby's 10th year. Hard to believe this is Kirby's 10th year at Georgia, just sort of what he's done there. And certainly look forward to this game and all the stories on both sides that will come out of this game. Hope to catch up with Dan Lanning down the road here in the next couple of weeks, sort of the coach, another guy with seemingly all the guys now out there somewhere have Alabama ties or worked under Nick Saban, but he's the guy right now. If you outside of Kirby Smart, I think if you look across college football and let's say you pulled 15 ADs together and 10 commissioners and said, outside Kirby Smart right now, who would you want as your head football coach? I think Lanning would get a lot of votes.
Yeah, so do I. Great point. Well, we love you, Chris. Thank you. Also brought to you by our friends at Pearl River Resort over there in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Just got back from Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. That's where we did the show yesterday. And you guys can go up there. It's the Augusta you can play, the Azaleas, the Oaks, 2 amazing golf courses. Chris, we need to get you there. If you like a good steak, Philip M. Steakhouse, amazing. I had the Pittsburgh Sear. Woo, medium rare. So good. Mashed potatoes, all that stuff. But we have a great time when we're at Pearl River, an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham. Don't forget about the Timeout Sports Lounge. It's a Vegas-style sports book that you can play. You don't have to go all the way out to Vegas like I'm doing next week when I go out to Vegas. And look at the spokesman for the Pearl River Resort Casino.
I may not suit up on Saturdays anymore, but I'm still in the game.
Let's roll.
In here, I call the plays, make adjustments, and lay it on the line. Want to feel that fire, that rush? Then you've got to get in the game. I used to say it in the tunnel, and I still say it now. Let's roll.
Let's roll.
We're presented by Bod Coach, and you can tell I'm slimming up over here, and it's because of Bod Coach. This is absolutely amazing. It's your personal trainer that is with you 24/7. So when I go to hotels or when I'm on the road, I type in, hey, look, I got equipment. This is what I have. And it'll make a workout specifically for me, what I want, what exercises I want. When I'm at home or I'm in a hotel and there's no way I can get to the gym, it'll say, hey, this is what I want to work on today. And it sends you personalized workout plans. It's really awesome. And they contacted me a few weeks ago to be a spokesman. I said, well, I want to try this.
Bod Coach is fantastic. Like, I use it all the time. I mean, and if I'm telling you, man, like, it makes working out when you are on the go like me so much better. Just because I don't always know I didn't play football at Alabama. I didn't have Scott Cochran yelling, yeah, and telling me what workouts to do. So anyway, I'm going to put in the body of on the YouTube all about Bod Coach. Get you guys signed up there, but tell them you heard it on Bama Tailgate.